My name is Daniel, and this happened in 2019 when I stayed in Las Vegas for a work conference. I'm not the type to believe in ghosts, but what I experienced in that hotel room still keeps me awake at night. I was staying downtown at the old Hotel Apache, a place locals whispered about but I had never heard of. The check-in clerk even joked, "Don't worry if you hear voices. It's just the hotel's history talking to you." I laughed it off, but looking back, she wasn't really smiling when she said it. The first night was normal. I came back late after walking Fremont Street, collapsed onto the bed, and slept hard. But the second night, things changed. At around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps in my room. Slow, deliberate, like heavy boots pacing back and forth. My first thought was that I left the door unlocked, so I sat up quickly, only to find no one there. The door was still chained shut. I tried to calm down, telling myself it was just noise bleeding through the old walls. But when I lay back down, I realized the footsteps were now coming from inside the bathroom. I could hear them clearly, pacing, stopping, then pacing again. I got up, heart pounding, and pushed the bathroom door open. Empty. Lights off. Silence. When I turned back toward the bed, my stomach dropped. The desk chair had moved. It was now angled toward the bed, like someone had been sitting there, watching me. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The third night was worse. I tried to convince myself I'd imagined everything, but around the same time, 2:15 a.m., I woke again. This time, it wasn't footsteps. It was voices, whispering, low, overlapping murmurs that I couldn't make out, like a group of people standing right outside my door. I crept over and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but the whispers continued, now inside the room. That's when the TV flickered on by itself, blasting static. The remote sat untouched on the nightstand, and through the static, I swore I heard something. Just one word, clear as day. Stay. That was it. I threw my things into my bag and checked out at the front desk at 3 in the morning. The night clerk barely reacted when I told her what happened. She just nodded, almost like she'd heard it all before. Later, I Googled the hotel. Turns out the Hotel Apache is considered one of the most haunted hotels in Las Vegas. People have reported footsteps, voices, electronics going haywire, even furniture moving on its own. I had always thought Vegas was all about lights, parties, and casinos. But in that room, I felt something dark, something that didn't want me there. And I'll never forget that voice, hissing from the static. Stay. My name is Anthony, and this story happened when I stayed at the Circus Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas in the summer of 2015. If you've ever been to Circus, you know it's an older hotel, and people online have said for years that it's haunted. I never paid attention to that kind of thing until I stayed there myself. My room was on one of the upper floors, right at the end of the hallway. When I got there, I noticed something strange. My door connected to another room. That's normal in hotels, but this one looked abandoned. The carpet in front of it was stained, and when I bent down, I could see dust and old furniture through the crack at the bottom of the door. It didn't look like anyone had stayed in there for years. That first night, I went to bed around midnight. Around 3 in the morning, I woke up suddenly because the blankets had been pulled tight around my feet, almost like someone was yanking them from the bottom of the bed. I thought maybe I had kicked them off in my sleep, but when I sat up, I saw the blanket lift again, like invisible hands were tugging at it. I froze. My roommate, who had come with me for the trip, was dead asleep. And then, from that locked, abandoned room next door, I heard banging. 3 heavy knocks, like fists pounding on the connecting door. I didn't move. I just sat there, listening. And then I saw it. In the corner of the room, near the bathroom, stood a figure, a dark shadow, taller than a man, just standing there. It didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, but it didn't fade. And then, as suddenly as it appeared, it slid backward into the darkness of the bathroom and was gone. The next morning, I went down to the front desk and asked about the room next door. The employee just looked at me and said quietly, "That room isn't in use." Then he turned away, like he didn't want to talk about it anymore. When I looked it up later, I found dozens of stories online about hauntings at Circus, especially about a room on the upper floors where a mother and child supposedly died years ago. Guests talk about hearing screams, seeing shadows, and having their blankets ripped away at night. I don't know if the room next to mine was that room, but I do know what I saw. Vegas is supposed to be about fun, neon lights, and slot machines, but in that hotel, in that room, I felt something that didn't belong, and I will never forget the sight of that shadow watching me from the corner, just waiting for me to close my eyes again. My name is Shane, and what I'm about to share with you happened when I stayed at the Luxor in Las Vegas 2 years ago. I had been to Vegas before, but this was my first time staying inside the pyramid. Something about that giant black glass structure always pulled me in. It felt mysterious, almost otherworldly. When I checked in, the front desk clerk gave me a strange look before handing me my room key. "You're on the 19th floor," she said quietly, sliding the card across the counter. Her tone carried a hesitation, like she wanted to warn me about something, but didn't. The elevator ride up was eerily silent. The Luxor's elevators, called inclinators, moved diagonally along the pyramid's slope. As it rose, I felt an odd pressure in my chest, like gravity was shifting unnaturally. By the time I stepped out, the hallway seemed darker than it should have been, despite the lights humming above. My room was near the corner. The second I unlocked the door, a rush of cold air hit me, even though the AC wasn't on. The place smelled faintly of mildew and something metallic, like dried blood. I tried to shake it off. It was Vegas. Maybe the room hadn't been aired out in a while. The first night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2:45 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps in the room above me. Heavy thuds, pacing back and forth. Then, sudden silence. I checked, but the floor above mine was completely vacant. I asked the front desk later, and they confirmed it. That second night, things escalated. I was brushing my teeth when I noticed the bathroom mirror fogging up, even though I hadn't run the shower. Slowly, words appeared in the condensation. "Get out." My heart dropped. I stumbled back, nearly slipping, and when I wiped the mirror, the letters were gone. I convinced myself I was just imagining things. But then, at around 3 a.m., I shot awake to the sound of knocking, 3 loud, deliberate bangs on my door. I froze, listening. When I finally gathered the courage to look through the peephole, the hallway was empty. And yet, when I turned back toward the bed, I swear someone was sitting on the edge of it. A dark figure, head hung low, shoulders slumped. My stomach lurched. I flicked on the light. No one was there. That was the first jump scare. But the worst was yet to come. On my final night, I decided to stay awake with the TV on low, just to make it through until morning. Sometime after 4 a.m., the TV flickered off on its own. The room went pitch black. And then, I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow, raspy breaths coming from the far corner of the room. I fumbled for my phone flashlight, my hands shaking, and when I turned it on, a face was inches from mine. Pale, hollow eyes, a gaping mouth, and then nothing. The light revealed only an empty room. I didn't wait for sunrise. I grabbed my bag and ran straight out of that hotel, down the inclinators, through the lobby, and didn't stop until I was outside under the neon lights of the Strip. Later, I learned that the Luxor has a history of strange deaths and accidents. Construction workers falling during the build, guests taking their own lives, even rumors of cursed energy inside the pyramid. Many of those incidents happened near the floor I was staying on. To this day, I refuse to step foot inside the Luxor again. And if you ever find yourself booking a room there, just pray you don't get the same floor I did.